So there was this little boy who, he in Sunday school had heard about the story of the Magi, and so he came home very excitedly to his parents to tell them how, at the first Christmas, because there was no Santa Claus, there were these three skinny men who came to bring presents to the baby Jesus, riding a camel. And then also because there was no Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with a shiny nose, they had to rely on the shiny star in the sky to lead them to where this baby Jesus was. I've been told, I was talking to a friend of mine in Spain yesterday. Apparently, the Feast of the Epiphany is a big feast in Spain, probably in other parts of Europe as well. The children get very excited because they put out little kind of stockings like how we do for Christmas, and also little food. And apparently, people dressed up as the three wise men kind of go from house to house, and they put chocolates in those stockings. And so the children are very excited. The next morning, they go out to find, what's in the stocking for them. Now, I've been told that even over here, y'all are given gifts, which y'all will get after Mass. Little kind of packets which have the prayer of Epiphany with a chalk that y'all can use to write on your doors, kind of to bless. It's a centuries-old tradition of blessing your home. But there are instructions in this, so don't forget to take one of these gifts after Mass, and you don't have to put out your stocking outside your door. You can collect a gift over here. So, there are various ways in which the Feast of Epiphany is celebrated around the world. For our reflection this evening, I would like to focus on the homily of Pope Francis, which was delivered yesterday, because in most parts of the world, they celebrate the Feast of the Epiphany on January 6th. And so in his homily, Pope Francis focused on these three points, which he said, the story of the Magi give us these three lessons about ways in which we encounter the Lord. And the 3 points are, the first is of restless questioning. The second, of the risk of journeying. And the third, the wonder of worship. So, restless questioning, risk of journeying, and the wonder of worship. And so I just kind of briefly, in my own words, kind of focus on those 3 points that Pope Francis kind of laid out as lessons that we can learn from the story of the Magi. So the first is restless questioning. I remember even as a young boy, I kept kind of, always raising questions in catechism class. And I'm sure, many parents over here, you experience also your children constantly asking you questions. And so that was also for me. I was like, even in catechism class, the story of Genesis has 2 stories of creation. And you're like, why are there 2 stories of creation? Like, which is the right one? You come to the New Testament, you have kind of, again, 4 different Gospels, giving 4 different kind of, to some extent, accounts of Jesus' life, raising the question again, like, why do we have 4 different Gospels? Why not, why couldn't they get their act together and have just one kind of, Gospel? So we could have a lot of theological and doctrinal kind of questions that can arise. I think the point that Pope Francis was raising was that, that restless questioning is important for us in our faith journey. That we constantly seek to ask ourselves questions in terms of, like the Magi, where is this child who is born? Who is this child? And so also for us, even though we might be baptized and we might be Catholics, and but what does it mean for us? What does it mean to believe in Jesus? So who is Jesus for me? To constantly kind of keep asking ourselves these questions which make us feel restless. Why is there, poverty in the world? Why do people fight with each other? To ask questions constantly Sometimes we might not get the answers, but at least that restless questioning sets us to that second point, which is the risk of journeying. That as we kind of ask those questions in our life, we set out on a journey, on a spiritual journey. Like the Magi. They didn't know, where exactly they were going. They were abandoning themselves to following the star. It must have been not an easy journey, going on those camels. So also in our spiritual life, we as we ask restless questions, we set out on a journey that has risks. We don't know where we are going. We place ourselves, become vulnerable. But that's important because then we come to the third phase, which is the wonder of worship. And so as the Magi they then encounter the baby Jesus, we also are invited to that wonder of worship, that wonder of adoration. And so these three aspects, I think, are three aspects of our encountering the Lord in our life, to encountering our own faith journey. Restless questioning, the risk of journeying, and the wonder of worship. And so let us kind of ask for that grace that in our own spiritual lives we might have these three dimensions, ultimately because the last one, the wonder of worship, is what our life is supposed to be as spiritual beings, to be filled with awe and wonder at God's presence in our world today.